G'day, welcome back to the channel. I want to talk about my disappointment in the FAA, and this is for American viewers, but there's lessons for the rest of the world as well. Now, as model flyers, as hobbyists, as drone flyers, we make up part of what is called a recreational community. We don't make money. People don't pay us to fly our drones and our model aircraft. We go out, we have a good time, we enjoy it because we love the fun of it. There are other recreational communities within the aviation sector. There are people who like to fly paramotors and ultralights, people who like to fly Cessna 172s with a regular pilot's license. Now, all these recreational communities have one thing in common: we don't fly to make money. We fly for the joy and the pleasure of flying. And so you would think that the FAA would treat us all pretty much the same, but unfortunately they don't. For example, the ultralight community, unregulated. There's no prescriptive regulation for ultralights apart from, stay out of certain areas, which means you don't need to register your craft. You don't need to set any kind of test. There's no compulsory training involved. It's like it's a free-for-all. You just go and build something and fly it. We don't care. Yet build a 250-gram model of that same ultralight. You've got to register it. You've got to sit the trust exam. You've got to fit remote ID. Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. We are discriminated against from that perspective alone, but that's far worse, because we face a situation now where in order to fly model aircraft and drones without having to get that Part 107 certification, which is quite an onerous thing to do, we have to qualify for the recreational exemption. And so if you don't qualify for that exemption, you need a Part 107 certification and all the costs and overhead that incurs. So how do you qualify for a recreational exemption? Well, it used to be pretty damn simple. You just used to have to fly for fun and not be paid to fly. That was it. Simple. Now things are getting a lot harder. It's getting more complicated because they introduced the trust exam. You've got to sit the trust exam. You've got to prove that you passed the trust exam to qualify for recreational flying. And you also have to operate under the guidelines of a recognised community-based organisation, a CBO. And if you are out flying your drone or your toy in a park or anywhere, or even on private property, it doesn't matter where you're flying it. If you're flying something out there and someone from the FAA rolls up and says, "Oh, let me see your Part 107 certification," and you turn around and say, no, I'm flying recreationally, I'm flying for fun, I don't need a Part 107 certification, then the FAA official can turn around and say, which CBO's guidelines are you flying under? And if you can't answer that question, you don't qualify for the recreational exemption, because one of the requirements is that you operate under the guidelines of a CBO. So they've increasingly narrowed the parameters which enable you to qualify for that recreational exemption, and it's getting worse and worse, to the point where I can see that exemption all but disappearing because it's so hard to qualify. And we are being treated unfairly in this. And I'll give you an example here. This is what I want to sort of demonstrate how biased the FAA is. Let's take the ultralight community. Now, I've got nothing against the ultralight community. Lots of great people fly ultralights. This is not in any way a criticism of them. It's a criticism of the way the FAA handles things. Now, ultralights can only be used for sports and recreation purposes. You cannot fly an ultralight for commercial benefits. You can't even get a license to fly an ultralight commercially. It's just you're not allowed to fly those craft for anything other than recreational purposes. Ultralight, that includes, like fixed wing ultralights and paramotors and so forth. So you cannot fly those for anything other than sports and recreational purposes. So let's draw some comparisons. Now, the hobby, a lot of people go down, you go down the park, you fly your drone, your fixed wing, you might go home, you've got some good videos. I'll put it up on my YouTube channel. No worries. So you put a video up on your YouTube channel. Your channel's monetized. You get $10 a month from the videos that are on your channel. You think, oh, it's great. And you put that money to buy new drones and things when you get paid out, when it reaches $100. So you think, that's fine. I'm still having fun. It's still recreational. Well, the FAA says no. They disagree. They say that if you are posting your videos to a monetized social media platform, you require a Part 107 certification. That's no longer considered to be recreational. And if you don't believe me, you just search on YouTube. There are so many videos of people who have posted their videos to the monetized YouTube channel and got a call from the FAA. Here's one example, just one example.
I got another call from the FAA. This time it was the Miami office, which I thought was weird because that's more than 3 hours away from me. And she told me that she'd seen several of my videos on YouTube. She was working from home as well and looking for violations. She said that she noticed I had ads on my YouTube videos. I said, yes, but I don't use any of the money for personal use. All the money goes back into the YouTube channel so I can purchase new equipment like drones or new cameras. I just recently bought a new GoPro, which is true, by the way. Anyway, she said that this was a violation because any use of a drone to further a business, even if you're not earning money directly, and yes, a YouTube channel does count as a business, requires a Part 107 license.
So as you can see, FAA woman said you have to have a 107 because you posted videos to a monetized channel. And let's listen to a well-informed influencer, commentator on the hobby on YouTube. What does he have to say?
Now, if you're following all of the rules and you do post your videos online and you happen to be earning revenue from those postings, then yes, you do need to have a Part 107 certificate. YouTube, for one example, is a business, and monetized videos do require that a pilot who conducted those flights needs to have a Part 107. There's no gray area about it. People say it's kind of a gray area. There really is no gray area. It's pretty black and white.
There you go. It's black and white. There are no grays. You have to have a 107 to post monetized video. So you would think then, well, okay, there should be no videos on monetized channels of ultralight flying, because if posting a video to a monetized YouTube channel switches you from being recreational to being non-recreational, then if you post a video of your ultralight flying, you're in breach of the rule, because then that flight becomes non-recreational and you're not allowed to fly an ultralight for anything other than recreational sporting purposes. So you would think there'll be no videos on YouTube, no monetized videos of ultralight flying, right? You'd be wrong. For example, Peter Schreipel has posted numerous videos of ultralight flying. He's built a number of aircraft over the years and he's flown them. He's posted monetized videos. The FAA doesn't have a problem with that. How does that work? I post a video of my drone flying and it's considered not recreational. Peter Schreipel posts a video of his ultralight flying and it is recreational. And what about paramotors? Well, Tucker Gott is a very popular YouTuber. He has a channel which is lots and lots of views, lots of subscribers, and he posts many, many videos of him flying his ultralight, which is his paramotor. I mean, and he monetizes the videos. In fact, he got a call from the FAA, just like that person flying that drone got a call, he got a call from the FAA. But this is how that call went.
So he says that there were basically two reports that he wanted to touch base with me on. The first one was in regards to monetizing the content I put on YouTube, essentially. Now, the thing in FAR 103, which is the kind of governing article about paramotors, it says that you can only fly an ultralight vehicle for recreation and sport purposes only, which means you can't do it directly for hire or commercially or whatever. However, the thing that I've always kind of believed was I'm not flying directly for hire. No one's paying me to fly. I'm making videos about flying, posting them on YouTube. Google places ads on them, and in turn I get paid for the advertising through the video content. So it's almost like twice removed, and I've always kind of thought that it would never be an issue. So basically, he said that they had their aviation attorneys look into it.
Filled with apple, filled with
And he said it's no issue. Turns out I was right the whole time, but it was just nice to hear it from the people in charge.
So let's get this straight again. You fly your drone and you put a video on your monetized YouTube channel, it's not recreational. But you fly your ultralight and put a video or multiple videos on your monetized YouTube channel, that's recreational. You fly your paramotor and put those videos on your monetized YouTube channel, that's recreational. Can you see why I believe there is an active discrimination against the hobby? They're trying to squeeze us out of this recreational exemption by making it almost impossible to qualify. I don't understand, and it gets worse because if you look on YouTube, there are many, many videos of people flying Cessna 172s and all sorts of manned aircraft with a regular pilot's license, and they post videos of their flights to their monetized YouTube channels. But they're not allowed to, according to the FAA, because if posting a video to a monetized YouTube channel negates your status as recreational, then all those pilots should have a commercial pilot's license, not a private pilot's license. But we see private pilots who are restricted to non-commercial recreational activities posting videos of their flying all the time. And the FAA says nothing. But when we post videos of these, it is verboten. You must get a 107 and fly commercially. There is no parity here, which means there is an active discrimination against our hobby. And that's a bad thing, a very bad thing for many, many reasons. One great reason is it reduces safety. Want me to explain? I will. YouTube has a great number of influencers, people who do things like Joshua Bardwell, myself, but I don't apply in this case because I'm not in the USA, but let's take Joshua Bardwell. He's a great asset to this community. He posts so many really informative videos that educate people, show them how to do things, show them what's safe, what's not. He reviews products so we know what products are good, what products are not good, so that we can buy sensibly, we can build drones so that they're going to fly safely. That's fantastic. But Joshua Bardwell, because he's posting videos of his flying to YouTube, he has to fly under Part 107, has to get a 107 certification, not recreational. Yet Peter Schreipel, who builds his own ultralight and flies it on YouTube, that's recreational. Anyway, so what happens under the situation at the moment is because he has to have 107, remote ID comes into effect. And this is what I find absolutely atrocious. Now, most people in Bardwell's position, from time to time they do build videos, showing people how to build perhaps, a freestyle drone, how to build a 5-inch freestyle drone. He'll show you, get the frame, get the motors, get the flight controller, get the FPV gear, the receiver, wire it all together, test it out and then go and fly it. Okay, that sounds fine, doesn't it? Yeah, no problem. But he can no longer legally do that, thanks to remote ID and his status as non-recreational under the biased decisions of the FAA, the biased interpretations of the FAA. Let me explain what I mean. The remote ID rule says that if you are building a new drone after the 16th of September 2022, every new drone that's used by a Part 107 operator must have standard remote ID. Not broadcast remote ID. New builds have to have standard remote ID. What does it mean? What's the difference? Well, if you build a drone and you're recreational, you can just throw a broadcast remote ID module on there and be compliant. No problems at all, because you're recreational. But if you are operating under Part 107, your drones must have standard remote ID, and that's different to broadcast remote ID. Broadcast remote ID simply broadcasts the drone's position, a unique identifying number, and where it took off from, the home point, the launch point, right? Standard remote ID requires that the operator's position is broadcast in real time. So it means if you walk 50 meters, then the remote ID signal has to show your new position, not where the drone took off from. Requires standard remote ID equipment. So if Joshua Bardwell builds his 5-inch build and he wants to go and fly it legally, he has to equip it with standard remote ID, and that's a problem. It's a huge problem because you can't buy a standard remote ID system off the shelf. You can buy broadcast modules, but there are no standard remote ID systems that you can buy and install. None approved. And you might think, well, just build one. Bardwell's a smart guy, just make some electronics, write some software, build your own standard remote ID system so that the transmitter has a GPS and it sends the signal up to the drone and the drone rebroadcasts it. Can't do that either, because you must be using approved equipment. And I can bet you any money you like that the FAA will not be approving individual builds by drone operators. You can't just build your own and have it approved. They won't do that. Because it must also be tamper-proof. And if you've built it, you can tamper with it. So that means Bardwell can't do any full build videos. He can build them, but he can't fly them because he can't comply with the remote ID rule because he's not deemed to be recreational. He's putting videos on YouTube, so he's commercial. He has to have Part 107. You can see this is crazy. This is absolute lunacy. So what do you do? What do you do? This is marginalizing a hobby unreasonably. We're not seeing this done with ultralight flyers. We're not seeing it done with general aviation, paramotor flyers. They don't get the same treatment. They're not getting these calls saying, hey, you've got to, you can't fly your ultralight and post videos on YouTube because that doesn't constitute recreational flying. Yet we can't post videos of our recreational flying of these things because then that flying is not recreational. Dual standards, totally dual standards, and I don't understand it. I went on Twitter and I tagged the FAA Drone Zone asking them about this apparent disparity. Do you know what I got in response? Crickets. They will not engage. I've caught them out. Why are you unfairly treating the hobby this way? They just, we better pretend he doesn't exist, this guy from New Zealand. Let's, you know, this is their attitude to me. I've asked so many questions, really important questions. And the freestyle community has asked questions. If you go on one of the recent streams with, it was Kevin Morris, Keith from Alien Drones, and Greg from Pilot Institute. On the FAA's instance of this live stream, in the live chat, lots of questions were asked by the freestyle community. Not one of those questions were answered. They're completely ignoring the freestyle community. That's the community that is least likely to be compliant, and yet they just don't want to engage. How can you expect compliance if you won't engage? I'm asking questions on behalf of this community. They won't engage with me either. This is not how regulations should work, how regulators should work. The FAA keeps saying, oh, we're engaging and we're working with communities. Bullshit. You are not engaged with the freestyle community, the people you need to talk to. You're not engaged with me, and you know, how can anyone have respect for a regulator that's just too scared to engage with this old guy from the bottom of the planet who's going to ask really tough, really hard questions that you don't have answers to? So people make their own choices. You can comply or not comply. It's up to you, but it's very difficult to have respect for a regulator that has no respect for you. Won't even answer your questions. Anyway, there you go. Another video. What do you think of that? Sorry, it's a bit long, but this is a really important thing. You ask the FAA how this disparity occurs, why they are biased against the hobby, and ask yourself where this is leading, because I honestly believe it's leading to the pretty much death of the hobby. There's no room, as the Commercial Drone Alliance said way back in 2013 to 15, there is no place for hobbyists in our airspace. We're going to be building this huge industry with delivery drones and all sorts of commercial drone operation. There's no space for a hobby in that airspace. Their time is gone. Get them out of our airspace. That's what's happening. Increasingly, we are being marginalized. Increasingly, it's becoming difficult to qualify for recreational status. Increasingly, whether you want to or not, you're going to become a commercial drone operator or stop flying in the USA. Sad news, but there you go. Thanks to all the people that support me. Thanks to the ones on Patreon, the ones who support me through channel memberships and through the thanks button. I really appreciate it. It is essential to the continuation of my efforts to protect, preserve, and promote this hobby. And so you are heroes, all of you. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. More videos to make. Bye for now.
Overregulation is like a tumor. It's killing our hobby. It must be terminated. Now!